Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a fascinating and incredibly ancient theology that completely shatters the whole pop culture genie image we think we know. I mean, when we hear the word genie, we almost automatically picture this friendly blue cartoon character popping out of a magic lamp to grant three wishes, right? Well, according to deep Islamic textual traditions and historical theology, the reality of these entities is vastly more complex, incredibly vast, and honestly, surprisingly dark. What we're actually looking at is a parallel species. We're talking about an entire, highly advanced civilization that supposedly ruled the Earth long before we ever arrived. So you have to ask yourself this paradigm-shifting question. What if we aren't the first ones here? According to these deep texts, before a single human was ever shaped from clay, the world was already completely alive. It was densely populated and ruled by ancient beings who crossed towering mountains, traveled vast seas, built massive settlements, and fought in these epic planetary struggles for power. It turns out humanity might just be the latecomers to the party. We really like to think of ourselves as the absolute pinnacle of earthly creation, but this theological history suggests we basically just inherited the ashes of an empire that existed way, way before our timeline even started. Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, the pre-Adamite civilization, Earth's first rulers. Now, take a look at the stark contrast in our origins here. Human beings, right? We were created from clay and water. That biological makeup gives us a heavy, material, deeply grounded essence. We are literally anchored to the physical laws of this planet. But the Jinn? It's a whole different ballgame. According to the sources, they were forged from something called marij, which is a pure, smokeless fire. This fiery origin gives them a subtle, super light and highly volatile energy. It completely frees them from our physical limitations. We're talking about beings that can move at absolutely incredible speeds, shift into different forms, and exist entirely in dimensions that our human eyes just literally cannot perceive. And looking at this timeline, their history reads like a massive cosmic epic full of tragedy. Long, long before Adam took his first breath, the Jinn were created from that smokeless fire and entered what was essentially a magnificent golden age. They were the original guardians of Earth, living in total harmony. But, as you might guess, over millennia, their immense power and total freedom gave birth to some deep, deep arrogance. That arrogance ultimately fractured their whole civilization, leading to massive corruption and devastating bloodshed all across the globe. The texts actually describe a terrifying world war where their destruction became so absolute, so out of control, that angelic armies literally had to be sent down from the heavens just to crush the rebellious, violent Jinn tribes that were tearing the planet apart. Moving right along to Section 2, Biology of the Unseen, Life Beyond the Veil. Now check out this breakdown because this is wild. According to historical narrations, humanity is vastly, vastly outnumbered. For every single human being currently walking the earth, there are 9 Jinn sharing our reality. They aren't ghosts, and they aren't angels. They are a distinctly separate, biological and spiritual creation layered right over us in an unseen dimension, coexisting on the exact same physical planet. To put that into perspective, just apply that 9-to-1 ratio to today's human population of roughly 10 billion. That means we're looking at a staggering, unseen population of 90 billion entities. 90 billion! And because their lifespans stretch for hundreds or even thousands of years, their populations have just expanded endlessly without the same mortality rates that keep human numbers in check. That is 90 billion beings living out entire lifetimes, building societies, and interacting with their environment right alongside us. But, as you can see here, they definitely aren't all the same. They have a really strict and complex hierarchy. The Amir, for instance, are the quiet dwellers who actually live right inside human homes, sharing our living spaces. Then you have the Ifrit. These are the heavy lifters of their world, massive, incredibly strong, and lightning fast. Moving into much darker territory, there are the Shaitan, these deeply wicked entities dedicated entirely to whispering into human minds and misguiding us. And at the absolute pinnacle of this dark hierarchy are the Marid. These are unimaginably powerful demons who are even more rebellious and destructive than your standard Shaitan. What is truly fascinating here is how parallel their daily existence is to ours. They have free will, they have sharp intelligence, they marry, have families, go to war, and eventually they do die. And just like us, some are righteous, some are criminals, and they follow completely different religions, from Muslim to Christian to atheist, all based on their own choices. They even eat and drink. Although actually, scratch that, you probably wouldn't want to share a meal with them.
The texts specifically note that they dine on discarded bones and dung. So, the next time you see an old bone out in the woods, maybe just leave it be. It might literally already be someone's dinner.
All right, let's dive into Section 3, Iblis in the Great War, the Fall from Grace. You really can't talk about the Jinn without talking about their most infamous figure, Iblis. And here's the thing, Iblis was not a fallen angel. In Islamic theology, angels literally do not have free will. They cannot disobey. Iblis was a jinn. And for thousands of years, he was actually their greatest hero. He worshipped so devoutly and lived so righteously that he was elevated to the ranks of the angels, even commanding them in battle against his own corrupt kind. But then, God created the first human, Adam, and commanded all beings in the heavens to bow out of respect for this brand new creation. Shockingly, despite his thousands of years of devotion, Iblis flat out refused. He said, "I am better than him. You created me from fire and created him from clay." That singular statement right there, that is the absolute foundation for all spiritual warfare in this tradition. It highlights the fatal flaw of Iblis, a devastating superiority complex rooted entirely in his fiery biology. He looked at Adam's heavy, earthly clay and just felt absolute disgust. And for this incredible act of sheer arrogance, he was cast out. He lost everything, becoming Shaitan, or Satan, and vowed to spend the rest of human history proving that humanity was utterly unworthy by whispering into our hearts and leading our entire species toward destruction. Which brings us to Section 4, Masters of the Occult, Magic and the Grimoire. So King Solomon, or Solomon, is a massive figure in this lore. While the unseen world is normally completely hidden from us, Solomon was granted a miraculous, divine kingdom that allowed him to literally command the jinn. He actually enslaved the most powerful, rebellious Ifrits, forcing these towering, fiery giants to undertake massive architectural projects, build impenetrable fortresses, and dive into the crushing depths of the ocean for pearls. The texts note he managed to keep these deeply malevolent spirits completely in check, using powerful encrypted Hebrew names woven right into his legendary carpet. But, and this is absolutely crucial, this absolute control was a divine exception. It was strictly unique to Solomon, definitely not a rule for regular humanity to go try out.
Yet for centuries, occultists have tried to do exactly that. They've tried to replicate Solomon's ancient power. Magicians have obsessively studied ancient talismans, rituals, and texts like the famous Arabic grimoire, the Shams al-Marif. They chant incantations like, "O legion of aides and viziers, you have been commanded to do as I say and carry out my will by the right of the prophet of God Solomon." They seek to summon these ancient entities, hoping to bind them into servitude to get wealth or power. But there is a massive, incredibly dangerous catch to playing King Solomon.
According to the texts, tapping into this realm is strictly forbidden. Why? Because it is never, ever about control. It is always about deception. When humans attempt to practice sihr or magic, they aren't actually commanding the jinn at all. They are actively being manipulated by them. The jinn, carrying that ancient grudge of Iblis we talked about, will demand that the human perform highly degrading, blasphemous, or sinful acts just in exchange for some minor favor. Their ultimate goal is to force humans to completely debase themselves. It's their way of proving once and for all that we creatures of clay are far worse and far weaker than they are, completely ruining the human's life and spiritual standing in the process.
And that leads us perfectly into our final part, Section 5, a parallel world living among us today. So you might be wondering, where are they right now? Well, they didn't just disappear because humanity built modern cities and paved over the forests. They are still here, and the texts offer very specific guidance on where they dwell. They advise avoiding abandoned ruins, deep caves, or unclean physical spaces like bathrooms, because those places serve as their homes in the unseen realm. And while they are almost entirely invisible to us most of the time, the lore states they can temporarily condense their fiery energy to cross over and appear in our physical world. When they do, they very frequently take the form of specific animals, like snakes or black dogs, literally hiding in plain sight.
This unseen proximity actually explains a lot of supposedly supernatural phenomena, like when a psychic or a fortune teller seemingly knows an impossible secret about your life. The texts explain that it's actually a cosmic heist. A jinn will literally fly up toward the lowest heavens and eavesdrop on the angels discussing divine decrees. They get detected quickly and are chased away by what we see as shooting stars, which are described as literal cosmic projectiles. But they manage to escape with one tiny fragment of stolen truth. They take that one truth, mix it with 1,000 absolute lies, and whisper it to a human psychic. So they don't actually know the future at all. They are just incredibly fast, long-lived eavesdroppers running a massive cosmic scam.
We spend so much time looking up at the vastness of the stars, wondering if we are alone in the universe. But according to this profound and ancient tradition, we might not even be alone in our own homes. The dark, sprawling civilization of the Jinn surrounds us, watching, living, and acting just beyond the thin veil of our physical senses, silently outnumbering us 9-1. Think about that the next time you walk into an empty room. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer today, and keep questioning what lies just out of sight.